They called it a ghost in the sky, a plane that could twist, dive, and disappear before your eyes. American pilots had a name for it, the Devil's Dragonfly. But its real name was the Mitsubishi, a 6M0, a machine that ruled the Pacific airspace in the early days of World War II. For months, the US couldn't touch it. They couldn't outfly it, couldn't outshoot it, and couldn't even understand how it worked. The Japanese had a terrifying edge in aerial warfare, and nobody knew how to stop them. Until one rainy afternoon, when a single mistake changed the entire war. But before we dive into this twist of fate that flipped the balance of power in the Pacific, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. If you're into epic aviation stories, forgotten history, and war tech that shaped the modern world, this is the place. All right, back to the skies. It was June 4th, 1942. The US and Japan were about to clash in one of the most pivotal naval battles of the entire war, Midway. But while American forces were preparing for the surprise attack that would define that battle, another operation was unfolding far to the north, in a place few people had even heard of. The Aleutian Islands, off the coast of Alaska. The Japanese launched a diversionary assault to pull US resources away from Midway. A group of Zero fighters took off from a carrier to support this operation. Among them, a 19-year-old pilot named Tadayoshi Koga. He wasn't a veteran. He wasn't even particularly well known, just a skilled, focused young man flying one of the best aircraft ever built. But something went wrong. While flying over Dutch Harbor, Koga's Zero was hit by American anti-aircraft fire. It didn't explode, but it was leaking oil, badly. Koga knew he wouldn't make it back to the carrier. So he made a call. He would try to land on Akutan Island, where a secret Japanese submarine was supposed to be waiting to recover downed pilots. He came in low, too low. The ground looked smooth from above, but it was swampy, soft, and uneven. As the wheels of his Zero touched down, they sank into the wet tundra. The nose dipped. The aircraft flipped forward violently. Koga died instantly, but the Zero, almost perfectly preserved. And here's where fate does something incredible. The Japanese couldn't retrieve the wreck. The sub couldn't get close enough. They wrote it off, assuming the aircraft would rot away on that remote island. They never went back. No one did. Until a US patrol plane spotted something strange glinting in the tundra weeks later. A recovery team was sent in. What they found stunned them. There it was, a near pristine, fully intact Mitsubishi Zero, just sitting there like a gift from the war gods. One of the most dangerous secrets of the Pacific, handed over by accident. The Americans didn't just recover it, they celebrated. The plane was shipped to San Diego under tight security. Engineers and pilots from across the country were brought in. And then began the most critical test flights of the entire war. The pilots couldn't believe what they discovered. The Zero was built for extreme agility and range. It was incredibly light, so light in fact that it had no armor protection for the pilot. No self-sealing fuel tanks. It was a flying scalpel. Deadly, but fragile. American engineers tested everything: roll rate, climb speed, stall behavior. They put it into dives, into tight turns, into simulated dogfights. For the first time, they saw the Zero for what it really was. Not invincible, just optimized for a very specific kind of battle. And it had weaknesses. If you got into a slow-speed turn battle with a Zero, you were finished. But if you dove, hit hard, and climbed away, using the superior power of American aircraft like the F-6F Hellcat or P-38 Lightning, you could take it down. The US changed everything. Flight schools rewrote their combat training manuals. Pilots were drilled on new tactics, all based on data gathered from that one crash on Akutan. And almost overnight, things started changing. Where once the Zero had dominated, now American pilots were scoring victories. Kill ratios shifted, morale soared. And by mid-1943, the Japanese could feel the change. They no longer ruled the skies, and they never knew why. They never realized their greatest asset had become the enemy's blueprint. Think about that. A teenager's emergency crash landing in the middle of nowhere helped turn the tide of an entire war. No generals, no atomic bombs. Just a busted plane and some smart people who knew how to learn from it. And here's something that will chill your spine. If that Zero had exploded instead of flipping, if Koga had managed a perfect water landing and sank, if the sub had found and destroyed the wreck, none of this would have happened. Thousands more lives might have been lost. The Pacific War might have dragged on for years longer. But history is strange like that. Sometimes it hinges on the smallest hinges. A foggy day, a soft landing, a pilot's final breath. That single aircraft became known as the Akutan Zero, and to this day, it's remembered not for the battles it fought, but for the ones it prevented. It's a reminder that even in the chaos of war, luck and timing can shift the course of history. And here's a little-known detail to end with. The recovered Zero was eventually destroyed in a training accident after hundreds of hours of flight testing. But its legacy, untouchable. It's still credited with helping the Allies win air superiority in the Pacific. Wild, right? If you made it this far, you've just uncovered one of history's greatest butterfly effect moments. And if you want more stories like this, true tales of machines, men, and moments that changed the world, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. It helps more than you know. And let me know in the comments. Had you ever heard of the Akutan Zero before? What other forgotten stories do you want to hear about next? Thanks for flying with me. Until next time, keep your eyes on the skies and never underestimate the power of a crash landing.